what I find troubling about the strategy is a couple of things. First of all, the strategy does not acknowledge that there is a serious human rights abuse problem in Egypt. In fact, it asserts falsely, that Egypt has achieved significant national milestones in the field of human rights at the legislative, executive, and institutional levels, and thus now it just wants to build on progress already made. There is a sort of a basis of denial from which this begins, right? And then there is this emphasis on the need for human rights culture. And I know His Excellency said that started to speak about this and the need for improvement in human rights education and human rights culture in Egypt. I am sure that is true, that this is needed on the level of the public. But the suggestion that the basic problem in Egypt is with the public, is with the citizens, I think is ludicrous. The problem is with human rights abuses carried out by the state, and as a matter of policy, it may not be written in laws. It certainly isn't written in the Egyptian constitution, and yet we know that these human rights abuses are carried out systematically. We are not talking about a rogue officer here or there that is doing something that he should not do. That is not acknowledged here. This language about improving the culture, and it's a very long process. This is very old language. We could bring out language certainly from the Mubarak era, from 20 or 30 years ago. It suggests a denial of what's going on. There's very little in the strategy about the issue of abuses by police, security officers, army officers, certainly nothing about the army, a little bit about the police near the very end of the strategy, in one of the last few pages, a very little bit about needing more police training, and a very small mention in the part of the strategy about individual actions that might be problematic. But this is not this is not the nature of the problem, and we know that, right? And this is the overall issue. I mean, I was looking at, there are throughout the strategy these boxes that have sort of target actions, like what are the goals that could be reached. And I was thinking, if all of these goals were achieved, and we know, of course, in no strategy will all of the goals be achieved. But let's just say, if you took the targets or the goals and every single one of them was achieved, there would be very minimal improvements in the human rights situation in Egypt. So it is setting very, very low goals, all right, and goals that are not commensurate with the problem. I just want to quote, Hussam Bahgat was quoted in a recent New York Times story saying about Egypt, this is not a country that is in need of some legal and institutional reform, some human rights training material. It is a country that is mired in a deep human rights crisis that can only be reversed through a recognition of the depth of the crisis and a decision to shift course. We do not see that here.